everyone. I'm your host, Nisi Edwards. Welcome back to Black Minutes, where we have been talking about for the last several days survival steps to beat COVID-19 for African Americans. So today, what we're going to be talking about is e-learning. A lot of the schools are temporarily closed. Children, college students as well are doing e-learning at home. And for many parents, this is an adjustment, especially if they have a child in grade school where, they have to do e-learning at home. And so I have a special guest with me today, my good friend, Janette Gardner. She is a mathematics educator of students of middle school through 12th grades with both general and special needs. She has spent 14 years as both teacher and service provider in Chicago public high schools. She is a national board certified teacher for early adolescent math students and is currently working as a virtual teacher to 8th grade students. She is a member of the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and the National Association of Special Education Teachers. She values helping students to become better lifelong learners and teaching according to students' individual needs. And Janette has raised 3 children of her own and enjoys spending time visiting bookstores with her family. So welcome, Janette. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Without you, my friend. Yeah. So yeah. How you doing out there in Texas?
I'm doing good. The weather's great, and I just wanted to let you know again that this is an honor for you to have me on today. This is
just complete without having you, because when I thought about e-learning, I said, this is the best person for this, because you're someone that I love and I have a great deal of respect for. And I know that you know your stuff when it comes down to this. And I tell you all the time, I said, Janette, you're a mathematics educator, and I've even shared with you how I did not like math in school. Remember when we had those conversations over dinner?
Yeah.
That's not me. Social sciences and that's my thing. But mathematics is hard. And when I look at your background, knowing that you are a mathematics educator of students of middle school through 12th grades for both general and special needs, and you've been doing this for 14 plus years, that's a lot. And I know during that time, you've seen a lot, and I feel that teachers are not valued enough. And I feel that parents are now realizing that, that some of these schools are temporarily closed because the things that they took for granted, now they're having to take on a greater role for this e-learning. And for many of them, it's not easy.
Right.
Oh, in fact, Janette, I saw, and I'm going to pull it up. I saw, I think it was the other day, that they're saying, let me find it, that in the Chicago public school systems, that they are spending money. Here it is. Chicago Public Schools is they're buying new computers for students to use at home to ramp up e-learning during the coronavirus shutdown. And there's like 640 schools. So they're going to create a comprehensive e-learning plan, because that's becoming increasingly important as students appear to be headed for a lengthy stay at home, which I know is driving a lot of these parents crazy.
Yeah.
So when I read this I actually read it today with them talking about they're going to buy computers for all these kids. I thought it was great, because for many Black and brown families, many don't have that in the budget, extra money to buy a computer.
Right.
It's simply not there. I don't care if it's a laptop computer or a desktop computer. They really don't have the money. And then the other piece of this that you and I have talked about is, if you have a computer at home, you also need internet access. So if you're doing e-learning, if you don't have the internet, there's such a great digital divide, you don't have internet access.
Right. You have to have that connectivity as well that goes along with it.
Yes, you do. And if they don't have that, hopefully CPS, they're going to add that. I don't really know. They didn't talk about that. They just talked about them buying new computers. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was, with this e-learning, I've taken, as an adult, many online classes. But I would imagine as a kid, so you've taught middle school through 12th grade. So for many of these kids who are at home now doing this, it's a lot for the parents, I would imagine, because for e-learning, many parents don't know. Some do, some may not. So let's talk about pointers to help the kids. And I feel that's important because with e-learning,
Yeah.
I shared with you that I've taken some online courses that was harder than the actual face-to-face course.
Right. And it can be,
Yeah.
one thing that I wanted to point out is that everything has changed. It's like roles have changed, expectations have changed. It's like, you know, our lives have been flipped on its head, so to speak. You know, and the e-learning situation is not as easy as it sounds. A lot of people, a lot of students might think, "Oh, yeah, this is easy. I have a lot of time to do this,
Mhm.
time to do that." Um, but what a lot of people don't realize is it's a whole nother way of life, actually. Um, you really, and it's not for everybody to take on easily. You really have to, um, plan out, you know, um, your time and your day because everything is merged into one. You're at home now. The classroom is in your home. You're there with your parents all day. The parents are there with the student all day. And depending on what age child you have, the parent is, expected to be teacher and parent. I read somewhere where it was saying that the the mother is the teacher, the disciplinarian, the cook,
Yeah.
everything. And so,
Dad is not there. And even if the dad is there, the mother is still everything oftentimes.
exactly, exactly. Especially if the parents aren't working or if they're working from home, you
Yeah.
know. So, I would say I guess some boundaries have to be drawn. It's just like when I first started working online, your the lines get blurred and you have to set boundaries. You have to set, I would suggest to set up a time for work and a time for your personal life. You know, um, set boundaries, which means you set a schedule and set the time that you're going to work and the times that you're going to be at home. You know, some people think, oh yeah, well I can just roll. People think you can just roll out of bed and just get online. I mean, you know, for me, I get up in the morning as if I'm going to work. I get up, take a shower, get dressed, put on my makeup or whatever, do my hair, and actually dress like I'm going out the door. You know,
Yes.
that way it sets your mind for what you about to do because what you're getting ready to do is still it's still important. You have to treat it as such. Like designate a time for it and treat it like that. Um, I would suggest to students to designate a learning space, like a space set aside for learning. Don't just let it be your classroom. Don't let your classroom be your living room or your bedroom. Because those are for different purposes. Okay, that helps to set boundaries and it helps to um, keep things separated to keep your mind focused on what's supposed to be done.
Those
But
are the points about setting boundaries because I've seen in our own neighborhood, I can look out the window and I sometimes see so many kids outside. They're on skateboards, bicycles. I mean, and this is even in the morning. And I wonder when are they going to have time for e-learning? Because out and about. So with you working online for e-learning, is there anything that the parent has to do? Do the parents have to check in, or do they have to set something up, or what does that look like?
I would suggest to the parents to actually continue to support the students in making a routine for themselves and setting those boundaries, because we can get online 24 hours a day, you know, um, and things get blurred. You don't really want it to spill over into your personal life, so you have to cut it off, and the parents should continue to be there to support the students, but at the same time encourage their kids to um, I guess, to be more responsible and take more of a leadership role for their own learning and be more proactive about their learning. Okay,
I
because
agree.
we were talking about earlier, like when we were growing up, you know, when I was growing up, like I want to use math for an example.
Okay.
My mom, she was about education, but she she didn't know how to help me with my math. She didn't know how to help me with my algebra, my geometry, my trigonometry. I had to figure that out for myself. But she was there to support me in encouraging me to take that initiative to be responsible for my own learning. Seek out those resources. You know, um, you have resources online. You have your teacher. you know, Stay in communication with your teacher. Your school has resources that you can use to help you get to that next step and to help you to learn.
That's true. And you're right. As we were talking earlier, I remember when we were coming up. So I'm the baby, and my mom couldn't help me with my schoolwork. But I tell you one thing, she put a greater emphasis
Yeah.
on education, because what she shared to me was she was from Mississippi,
Hmm.
coming from, the South to the North. And she always told me that she wanted her children to have an education, have a better education than
Hmm.
she did in the South. So I remember when we would come home from school, you come home, you have a meal, but you got to get to those books.
Yeah.
We couldn't just run outside and play with all the other kids. Mm-mm. It
Right.
was, you're going to do your homework, and not just do your homework. You better put forth your best effort. So it wasn't going to be no D's and no F's. It was going to be, you're going to apply yourself and do your homework. And
Right.
they didn't care. And I look at where we are today. I think a lot of parents are doing a good job, but then you got some parents who, like you said, don't create boundaries or help their children to create boundaries. So the weather is nice. We know that. So there's e-learning going on. The schools are temporarily closed. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean that the child should be outside all day long playing what? Because they need to focus on their education. I know someone that has a son who was supposed to be in summer school because there was 3 classes that he failed. So now here we come e-learning. And
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. If you fail 3 classes and now we've got e-learning and now it's summer school and everything being temporarily shut down, that just seems like a long road ahead.
Yeah. And it's going to be really hard for those students who didn't have good time management in the beginning, because this online learning is really heavy on time management. You have to be really good at managing your time, and that's a skill that a lot of people blow off. You know,
That's
and it's very necessary for e-learning.
even college students, because if you are a college student, you think, oh, I'm done with high school, you go to college. The difference is that
Yeah,
they tell you, or grade school, you got to get this done. In college, you
it's
don't, you
on.
don't, show up, you don't do it. Trust don't care.
Right, it's on you.
It's on you. You'll get an F.
That's, that's it's
And
on.
your parents, if they're paying for it, going to be very upset with you if that money is coming out of your pocket and it's not a Pell Grant or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're going to be upset with you. And if it is a Pell Grant or something like that, you don't want to misuse those financial resources, because if you're going to blow it off and not do your job and do the work, there's another kid somewhere, another family that wish they can get money, to go to school.
Right. And I also wanted to suggest to the parents during this time to kind of use this time to guide your children into being more proactive and learning about time management. Not to do it for them, but kind of guide them to learn how to do it for themselves, because as parents, a lot of parents are burned out from this. And you know to keep from getting burnt out, I would highly suggest to make that child more responsible for his or her own learning. You be the facilitator, but not to do the work for them, because they're going to have to learn how to do it for themselves in the long run anyway.
You're right, because if you do it for them, you're not helping them, you're hurting them, because
right.
When we get past this, on the other side of that mountain, if they don't have those skills, it's going to come right back around, because I view each year in school is a building period. So you've taught middle school through 12th grade. So would you also agree that for each grade level, the next one, the one prior, build upon that to prepare them for the next one? And so if you didn't get it, you missed a lot of classes, I was sure that would impact your learning.
Definitely, yes. And yes, especially for math as well. Yes, yes. It's foundational, it builds upon itself. So yes, if you don't have that good foundation, then you're going to struggle. You know, you're going to struggle all the
Yeah.
way through. Yeah.
Now, math, since you and I've joked with you before about, I tell you all the time, math has never been my favorite subject, but when you have talked about this before, math doesn't not govern a lot of things we do, problem solving and other things.
Oh yes, oh yes, and that was going to be another thing I wanted to talk about. Um, I have a lot of students that ask me, why do we need this? Are we going to use this math in our lifetime? Do we really need this? And I usually say, if it's an algebra or geometry, I usually say probably not this subject per se, but math teaches us a lot about life. And I always try to tell my students, math is it's not so much about getting the right answer all the time. You know, it's the process, the learning process, the process that you go through to getting the answer. That's the important part. Because you're thinking, you're trying to figure out different ways to get from one point to the next. You're being creative. You are collaborating with your classmates, brainstorming ideas, and you know any way you can come up with a solution visually or manually. I mean, that's when the real learning is. Okay, and math teaches you how to be a critical thinker. It teaches you how to be a problem solver, like you said. Um, I mean, it teaches you how to be logical in decision making and and be creative as well. I mean, a lot of different things that we do every day in life, and that's what's going to help you throughout your life, and that's what a lot of people miss.
True, big
Yeah,
time true. Where I also see math being very important is little simple things such as
yeah,
you store and you check out at the register. So I'll never forget, the total was, I think, $20, and I'm going to say $20.25. And this was a high school student.
hmm
And I had given them no, maybe it was $10.25, but whatever it is, what I did was whenever I'm given a bill, I'll say, okay, what if you tell me, it's $10.25, for example. If all I have is a 20, I'll say, okay, out of $20, because I want you to recognize the bill that I'm giving you. And so
Mm-hmm.
you put that to the side so that you can remember what that person gave you. And then if you tell me 25 cents, I'll give you, let's say, 25 cents if I have the odd change or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The student, Janette, didn't know what to do. And I said, well, is a problem? And he was like, well, yeah, you gave me 25 cents and you gave me $20, but
Yeah.
it's $10. And I said, right, because all I have is a $20 bill and I gave you the change. So you owe me $10 back because it's 10.20 and I gave you 20.25.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure it out. And I thought, I may not be great when it comes to trigonometry, geometry, and all that. The counting, if you don't do anything to me, how can you count your own money? If you
Exactly. Exactly. And then it also shows how you can come up with an answer or solution in different ways. You know, you can do it in different ways, and that's just life. Learning how to think, and also like you say, simple things like that, and simple things like um, brain teasers or logic puzzles, games like that help you to problem solve and to think. It doesn't have to be the math. Like people are, ooh, the math, but it just teaches you how to think, and you come up with so many other solutions in your life just
true,
by knowing how to think. Yeah,
keeps your sharp too.
yeah, yes,
It does making those connections. That's so true. I just
right,
I really feel for our students and I really feel for parents because many parents are not equipped to really help with the e-learning. And for
right,
many of them, it's not because they don't care, it's because they don't know. I've heard many people the last 3 weeks on different Facebook groups I'm in saying, oh, that trigonometry, that math,
yeah,
hate that. I cannot help my students. So I know that you and I talked about creating your own program to really help parents with math as well as students with math. But let's say you are a parent and they call it this new math. That's what I hear everybody say. So if you're a
yeah,
parent and you don't know this math,
yeah.
where do they start?
Well, I would say definitely look to your resources. You have resources at your child's school. You have online resources, maybe tutoring services. You can look into um, and stay in touch with the teacher. Um, Communicate with the teacher because the teacher is going to be the person that's going to help you, give you some pointers on what to do, for your child, things to look for and what to practice with. So I would definitely say stay in communication with that teacher regularly. Designate a time where you can touch base like once a week with that teacher, or a time for you to reach out when you have questions to email that teacher, or do a Zoom call or a FaceTime or something with the teacher, so that you can stay in communication. Because that's going to help. And then use your resources as well. Reach out to people, because this is a time also where it's shown us that we need each other more than ever now. You know,
That's
yeah,
so with the e-learning, um, with these schools being temporarily closed, what I was wondering about is when the schools started temporarily closing, do they have that conversation with the parents? Do they send them some type of communication that states basically, I'm just paraphrasing, that should there be a need or something your child don't understand or you don't understand, this is whom you contact?
yes, there should be some communication from that school and from the teacher regularly to the parents to keep the parents informed of what's going on, because a lot of teachers, this is new for a lot of teachers, you know, and they're figuring things out as they go along too. So just to keep that line of communication open, look, we don't know, but we're figuring it out, and we're doing this and we're doing that. That kind of is assurance as well, that you know that everybody, you know, don't have all the answers yet, but we're working through it. We're figuring it out.
What have you seen on your end? So with some of your students, what have been some of the challenges that you feel?
A lot of the one of the challenges is keeping up with the students. Like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the students feel like, oh well, since I'm at home, I can get relaxed and I can,
Mhm.
you know, do whatever. This is not the time for that. If anything, this is the time to get it together, get strict about um, having a routine, you know, setting the boundaries, setting schedules, you know. This is the time to build those skills, because um, with with the students having that attitude, it's hard to keep up with them. But we have to call them every day, and it's more difficult because of the documentation that we have to put in place every day. You know, calling the students and or the parents to let them know that we're here for their support. You know, are there any questions? Are there any problems? And the you know the students um, are still asleep at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, and then you have some parents that are, you know, just letting it happen. So that's one of the challenges that I have. That is way more documentation. I can't say paperwork, but it's more, um,
Documentation.
yeah, documentation that we have to do than when we were in the school. You know, and just keeping up with the students, keeping them engaged. Okay, that's another thing. Keeping them interested. You know, it's like it's just we have to every day think of new and creative ways to keep the students involved so that we don't lose them.
I think I agree with everything that you just said, but I also feel too that a lot of this onus has to also be on the children too. So I'm not speaking
Yeah.
of the young ones, but
Right.
if you of a certain age, so I know that you taught up through grade 12. So if you're to me in even junior high, okay, and
Yeah.
high school, to me, there's really no excuse because you you should not be focused on doing homework as a parent. You should be focused on this is for your
Yeah.
and you're at the age where you should understand that this is what you need to do. For us growing up, there was no option. It was
There was no option. Right.
this is what you're going to do. I
Right.
never I never challenged my parents about that because I knew what was going to happen. You know what I mean? Um, I know it's a different generation, but what it goes back to, I feel, is the basics of home training. And it was, this is what you're going to do, and
Yeah.
what we did. It wasn't about, well, I'm going to sleep till whatever time and do my own thing. No, no, no.
Yeah.
My mother, her name was Miss Lily Mae, and I'm gonna tell you, her name was Lily Mae, and I'm gonna tell you what her one of her famous sayings was. It was, "Gal, don't make me put my nines on your neck." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what that meant was, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, I got something for you. You gonna get a spanking. And I did not. I did. She
Yeah.
didn't have to tell me that too many times because I already knew what was coming. When she said, "Don't make me put my knives on your neck," I knew what that was coming. And for the audience that are watching this, you may be saying, "Oh, that sounds like child abuse." I mean, let's get real. In the African American community, these are the basics. Okay,
Yeah.
talking about child abuse, what I'm talking about is strong families, especially strong African American mothers, They want to see their children excel. They want to see them do well. They want them to have a prosperous future. And
Mm-hmm.
so we may talk to our children a different way than maybe some of you all talk to your children. And some of you may be saying, oh, I just tell my kids, have a timeout. Well, you know what? Timeout don't work for all kids.
Right.
Okay.
And you have to know most parents, they know their children, and
That's
you have to do what it takes to get across to your child how important this is, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
And then tell them time out. I never understood why some of them told them time out, because for some of them, when they say time out, go to your room, in their room may be TV, cell phones, computers, and everything else. So when
Right.
you tell them out, all they doing is doing,
Punishment.
what's the point?
Right, right. Oh goodness. And yeah, and you know, as African Americans, a lot of us, are already starting out with not enough resources and
That,
not the things we're not supplied with the knowledge, or the information that it takes to succeed, and
that's
now is not the time to slack off. A lot of people, a lot of students that were on the fence when you were in the classroom about, whether to continue with their education or whatever. And now, since things have changed to this e-learning, they may use this as an opportunity for them to drop off completely from
that,
their education. And I can't stress enough. This is not the time for that. You know, a lot of us have been placed in situations where you can't win anyway, you
no,
know
can't.
but
Yep,
a lot of us have fought with little to nothing and still were able to succeed just because they were strong and they pushed through. It's not easy, you know
it's,
but
it's,
now's
it's
the time to really fight through. Yeah.
true. And for some of these households, if the kids excel and do what they're supposed to do, they may be the first graduate in their entire family
Yeah.
that the college degree, that has a future, which is
Right.
very important. And now it's like you said, now is not the time, because if there's e-learning going on, that should be your time to see to it that your child gets caught up
Hmm.
with their homework.
Yeah.
No, I know that when school's in session and it's not temporarily closed, they've got all these extracurricular sports they're in, football, basketball, soccer, whatever it is. If they could make time for that,
Right.
then they can make time for e-learning. And to me, they shouldn't be behind if they're at home, because you're at home. You're not supposed to be going anywhere anyway.
Right.
You
and
know,
and also too, you know, um, many of us, and I didn't either, didn't think that this situation was going to go on as long as it had.
yeah,
Okay, so now you got to think about the future. Okay, where is this going? I mean, it hasn't gone away. This could continue on for a long period of time. We don't know. It could go away. It could come back. You
yeah,
know, they're talking about that the virus is supposed to, come back in the fall, maybe
yeah.
possibly stronger.
During
You
flu. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So if we experience that, who knows? We might be not going back to the classroom in the fall. You
Right
know.
back where we are now. I
Yeah.
remember it was when I was enrolled in that medical coding program that I shared with you
Yeah.
that year. It was in January where we had really bad weather. And we had about 3 sessions of class that we missed because it was so bad with the snow and whatnot, and they closed campus. And so what would happen is when they would close the campus, when school would reopen, since we were not with the instructor and you're reading your book,
Hmm.
the be very, very, very hard, because if there was something you didn't understand or you could not reach the instructor, it was hard to try to stay on top of that. So one time I said to them, Janette, I said, what I don't understand is, I get that the weather is bad. I get that you're close to campus. But what I don't understand is, in spite of all that, why don't you have an e-learning plan? I
Mm.
said, because it would make more sense for the teacher to be in front of Zoom or any other video platform
Right.
where you still can learn, you still can teach. I said, so I really don't understand it. And I kept just really stressing that. I'm sure I really got up under their skin uh,
Wow.
about that, because these were science courses such as anatomy and physiology, physiology. And I would say to them, hey, there's no reason why we can't do this online.
Mm-hmm.
We're adult students. We're ready. We're willing to do this, but they were not ready. And I thought that was kind of interesting that they're not ready, because now we see here
Yeah,
that schools,
afford.
and I saw online that even the Gurnee public schools, I think they were struggling to have a plan in place for e-learning. I mean, they're not the only one. It's many other, but I would think and imagine going forward that this should be something that all schools have in place, because you never know when this happens again.
Right, you're right. And I can't remember where I read this. I think one of my articles, um, where some schools already had this in place. The schools with the money, they did already
Right.
have this e-learning backup in place, you know. So it wasn't, so when this happened, with the social distancing, it wasn't so much a struggle when they had to transition to it. But a
True.
lot of, yeah, but there's a lot. I would say most of us, weren't ready. You know,
No, not ready. And now, they say, if you how does the saying go? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
right, right,
I get that that's easier said than done, but for these are younger students, early adolescent and just even much younger than that.
yeah,
I was thinking about some of the households where things may be tight. It may be a small place where they may not have a designated space where they can go study. And I would think for something like that, the parents have to be willing, even when things are tight in your household where you may not have a lot of space, be
yeah,
willing to find a little corner somewhere, or devote some time to saying, okay, we don't have any extra bedrooms, or we don't have this, or we don't have that, but we're going to make use of what we have so that you
yeah.
can get.
Or even right, or even for older students as well. If you don't
Yeah.
have space, set a like with the timing, set aside a specific time that student is going to use this certain space.
Yeah.
um, for learning or for studying. And then when that time is up, then, go back to whatever the space was used for. But, like we were saying, it's not easy, every,
No.
everything has to change. And it's just like I said, it's a new way of living now. And, you know, success is not easy. Anything worthwhile is going to take some effort. It's going to take some planning. You're going to get sick of it, but it's necessary. It's necessary. You know.
It, and you have the last word, my friend. Is there any other helpful tips you would like to share with the audience about? Because you raised some really good points about number one, having a plan, and not only uh, having a plan. I think the biggest thing was time management, because time management is going to help them even beyond.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's true. The time management, and I would suggest continue to be flexible. You know, just like we didn't expect this change. Things change in our lives, and we have to roll with the punches. Not saying that it's easy, but we have to. I would suggest that embrace this and turn it into a positive, and stay positive. We all need each other and help each other whenever we can. Stay positive, and it can be done. Like I said, our ancestors, they overcame a lot,
Yeah.
with nothing. It can be done, and just continue to encourage each other. You know, stay healthy. Um, stay in the right frame of mind so that you can look at it as a glass half full rather than half empty.
I love that. That is so true because we may be going around this merry-go-round again. They say come the fall with the flu season that it could be
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. So prepare for the worst and expect the best, hope for the best. Yeah.
because I was also thinking about those kids that may have like a chronic illness, may have an IEP program in place, and what about those kids that may have some? Because you work with special needs, so what about those kids with special needs doing? Because there's no one going into the home, so I'm assuming, am I right, that they would have to do some of this elect online or?
Yeah. And so we have to cater to their needs um, as much as possible that that this e-learning will allow. We just have to, most of the things we can still do. Like for example, students need extra time. They get to take their breaks. Anybody should take breaks anyway throughout their studies and their learning. Um, and suggest that the parent, is there for support, and then we do check-ins, to make sure they're not having any issues or any questions. You may need to spend extra time with that student, maybe read with them, or depending on what their IEP says. A lot of those accommodations we can still do online, just in creative ways. Like for example, a student might have um, preferential seating, like to eliminate distractions in the classroom. And
Right.
so we can make sure that that student is seated next to a parent or an adult or someone that has positive influence on that student and kind of help with them not being distracted, or making sure that in an environment.
About that. Yeah, that's true. All these different issues, to take into consideration, and also too, there's different learning styles.
Right, right. And so you just have to, adjust it a bit and be a little creative, um, just as long as that students' needs are met, you know. Mhm.
True. So for everyone, if you or someone out there, you have a child that's struggling with mathematics, my girl here, Janette Gardner, is the one you need to contact. I view her as the math guru. I sincerely feel that way, the math guru, because, and the reason why I say that is because although she's my good friend, she strives for excellence. And not only does she strive for excellence, she's really passionate about this. And that's the difference, because some people, they just have what they refer to as a job. It's not their passion. They care less. They're just looking for a pay. But Janette is not like that. Yeah, she wants to get paid, but this is something she's passionate about, very passionate about, knows it backwards and forwards, good at that. She's a woman of faith. She's just an all around wonderful sister. So if you have some math challenges, I don't care if you are not where she's at in Texas or any other state, reach out to her. She can help you virtually. So she's available. Reach out to her if you need some help. And Janette, do you have an email or something you can provide to people?
Yes, I do actually. I can give you. I have two emails. I give you. It's called Abs Value at google.com. So it's ABSVALUE tutoring. I'm sorry. Okay. So it's ABSVALUE tutoring, TUTORING at gmail.com. And that's That's short for, that stands for absolute value tutoring. Okay. So, I'm a math teacher. So,
Yeah.
absolute value, if you math person, what absolute value is.
I'm going to say this. It would be an absolute value when they work because you value what you do. You value, I mean, you're really passionate about this math stuff. And go ahead on, sister. I'm glad you are because I'm going to tell you, that's not my it.
Thank
That's it.